were using supplemental BHB in that context, would it sort of ease that transition or help you achieve it faster?
Yeah, that was one of the rationale for using it too, is that there's a bit of a gap in your body's ability to make ketones when you transition to a ketogenic diet. The presence of ketones in the blood actually augment the adaptive changes to ketosis, meaning it actually enhances the ketone transporters, the MCT monocarboxylic acid 2 transporters, and also increases the production of ketolytic enzymes, which means the enzymes responsible for converting ketones into ATP.
Got it. So as you're making that transition from a high carbohydrate diet to a ketogenic diet, stuff has to change, and it takes time, and there's inertia, and like enzymes have to get expressed, and that could take hours or days. But if you're using supplemental BHB, you can kind of kickstart that and help it happen faster.
Absolutely. And I think it is important the type of formulation that you use. We have found that with ketone salts, the ketone can be spread across monovalent and divalent cations. That's a scientific terminology of just sodium beta hydroxybutyrate, and calcium, sodium or potassium, magnesium. But sodium beta hydroxybutyrate in and of itself is very good, but you can also spread it across different electrolytes to have more of a balanced electrolyte preparation. And when you take beta hydroxybutyrate salts and you combine that with MCT and you consume it, you're delivering exogenous ketones and stimulating your own endogenous ketosis with the MCTs. The MCTs and the electrolytes also delay gastric absorption, so you have a greater elevation of ketones and a greater sustainment of ketosis over time, because the fat and electrolytes too delay gastric absorption, much like a GLP-1, right? So there's this delay in gastric absorption that happens, and I think that's we've observed in ourselves, and we have even a patent on this in our animal models, that's a way to basically allow you to dose this like twice per day, and you could stay in therapeutic ketosis twice per day with that formulation 2 or 3 times a day.
So obviously there's a history with the ketogenic diet. Sort of the classic ketogenic diet was used in the context of treating epilepsy. We talked about how BHB can increase inhibitory tone in the brain, and obviously that has a direct implication for treating epilepsy, which is basically too much brain activity. I've also had conversations on the podcast about the metabolic roots of cancer and how going into ketosis might be beneficial for treating and or preventing cancers. I want to talk about brain cancer in the context of BHB and ketosis with you. So to maybe set the stage there, can you tell people what is the Warburg effect, and what does being Warburg shifted in our cells mean, and how does that tie into cancer?
Yeah, Otto Warburg observed that, cancer cells had aberrant metabolism, and his theory was the Warburg effect, explained as concise as possible, is an insufficient oxidative metabolism or insufficient respiration produces compensatory fermentation, right? So if the mitochondria cannot efficiently respire, then it activates, he didn't know it at the time, but it activates a default metabolic pathway that transitions a healthy cell. The transition from a healthy cell to a cancer cell is the greater reliance, is the shift from oxidative stress or oxidative metabolism, we call that respiration, to compensatory fermentation, which is glycolysis or substrate level phosphorylation. So taking a step back and making it a little bit less technical, is that the mitochondria produce about 90% of the ATP. As the mitochondria become progressively damaged, and that could be due to many different things. This is called the oncogenic paradox.